The history of this channel begins with my Instagram account, and the history of that goes back to getting on voice calls with my friends. I was always the movie guy in my friend group, so I had a silly award show called The Beverleys, where I'd award all of the films I'd watched that year. This was then moved to my Instagram account, and now I'm moving it to YouTube. These awards aren't for movies released in 2023, but for every movie I watched last year. In total, there were over 250 films that I saw for the first time. Many of these movies are now some of my all-time favorites, and picking between them is not an easy task, but here it is. A little bit late, the 2023 Beverleys. The first category we're going to start off with is Best Documentary, and the nominees are Baraka, directed by Ron Frick. Baraka is a 1992 non-narrative film. It has no dialogue or characters, and instead is an hour and a half of pure visual storytelling. Filmed all over the world, Baraka captures the joy, love, culture, history, and suffering of the entire planet. But it always captures beauty. This is perhaps the most beautiful film ever made, and it touches something inside you that's hard to explain. Night and Fog, directed by Alain Resnais. Night and Fog is a 1956 French short film. Perhaps the most condensed and simple film on the Holocaust ever made. Night and Fog is one of the first films to approach the atrocity in such a powerful way. With only a 36-minute runtime, Alain Resnais paints a portrait about the horrible nature of these haunted places. As I was moving ahead, occasionally I saw brief glimpses of beauty, directed by Jonas Mekas. As I Was Moving Ahead is a 2000 experimental film, which is a compilation of Mikas's home movies in an attempt to understand his entire life. This movie is a juggernaut of nothingness, the idea that lives are massive and meaningless and beautiful. If your life flashes before your eyes, I'd only hope it looks like this. The Beaches of Agnes, directed by Agnes Varda. The Beaches of Agnes is a 2008 French film where acclaimed French filmmaker Agnes Varda visits and contemplates on her past and influential film career. Agnes Varda is one of the strangest and most fun directors to see just walk around and talk. The Beaches of Agnes is perhaps the best documentary she's ever made about how amazingly kooky her view on the world is. 20 Days in Mariupol, directed by Myslov Chernov. 20 Days in Mariupol won the Oscar for documentary filmmaking this year, and it more than deserved it. This was easily the most important film of 2023. Just listen to Chernov's acceptance speech. It's better than anything I could ever say. And the award goes to Baraka. Next is one of the most important awards that no award shows really seem to care about. Best Sound. Sound is half of the film. It is almost as important as the visuals, and without sound, you don't really have a movie. Well, you have a silent movie, but you don't. Sound is important. The nominees are 8.5, Alberto Bartolome and Mario Faraccini. 8.5 fights an already uphill battle with practically the entire film being dubbed. Many of the actors aren't saying their actual lines because the script wasn't completed until almost after shooting. This makes the almost seamless work of the sound department even more commendable. Skinamarink, Kyle Edward Ball. How does one construct a nightmare? This is the question that Skinamarink answers. While the visuals and editing of this analog horror film tell the story, it is the sound of the film that provides much of the terror. Simple but haunting, Skinamarink never falters to make you want to turn on the lights. Sound of Metal, Nicholas Becker. Sound of Metal is linked with its sound design. If the sound of the film fails, the film falls apart, but it never does. Sound of Metal manages to capture the experience of losing your hearing entirely through the pulsating sound. But perhaps the most powerful sound this story has to offer is silence. Oppenheimer, Richard King. With such an amazing score, the sound of Oppenheimer is almost lost in the shuffle. But it is there, and it is brilliant. The warping of time, connecting moments decades apart, and the slow buildup of terror and atomic fusion is all the work of the sound department. All That Jazz, Maurice Chiel. All That Jazz is visual, jazz. With such energetic editing, the sound department had a challenging job, but they succeeded at following the fast-paced story and make each musical number bombastic and brilliant. And the award goes to Sound of Metal. The next category is Best Production and Costume Design. And the nominees are The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, Bernard Evin and Jacqueline Muriot. The Umbrellas of Cherbourg is a cinematic piece of candy. This is in part due to the cinematography, but the real hero of this 1964 French musical is the beautifully colorful sets and costumes. With perhaps the best wallpaper in the history of cinema, The Umbrellas of Cherbourg has some colorful but realistic design that only makes it all the more delightful. Fanny and Alexander, Katina Farago and Marieke Voslunch. With a more than 5-hour runtime, every location in this period piece is immaculately detailed and lived in. Each room feels stuffy and old, and filled with the history of the Ekdal family. Hero, Qing Zhaohu, Zhen Xiaoyi, and Yimi Wada. Hero is full of the epic Chinese period piece sets and costumes that you would expect, but what makes Hero stand out is the color schemes on display. With each chapter holding to a specific color, this makes Hero's production even more distinct and original. Last year at Marienbad, Jacques Saunier and Bernard Evin. Marienbad is one of the most mysterious places in film history, a dreamlike palace where only memories walk. The film's production team makes Marienbad feel otherworldly and impossible, and provides the backbone of the film. Mishima, A Life in 4 Chapters. Iko Ishiaka and Etsuo Yoko. Capturing the stark reality of 70s Japan and the minimalist worlds of Yokoi Mishima's plays, the production design of A Life in 4 Chapters is a non-debate. It is beautiful and brilliant in every way, breathing life into the work of its complex and contradictory subject. And the award goes to Mishima, A Life in 4 Chapters. The next category is Best Supporting Actor. While most awards ceremonies divide acting categories into actress and actor, I've decided to combine the two, and the nominees are Sandra Bernhard, the King of Comedy. How do you both be threatening and pathetic at the same time? Ask Sandra Bernhard because her portrayal of Masha is endlessly strange but always realistic. She isn't the lead character, but she steals every scene she's given. And when the lead is Robert De Niro, that's not easy. Rachel Weisz, The Favorite. The Favorite is the most emotionally complex Yorgos Lanthimos film, and Rachel Weisz is the best actress in his filmography. When these two forces collide, you get a remarkable performance filled with anger, jealousy, confidence, and the overwhelming sadness of losing everything. Daniel Day-Lewis, Gangs of New York. Bill the Butcher feels like Daniel Day-Lewis's warm-up to There Will Be Blood. While it's not his best performance, it's Daniel Day-Lewis. Of course he crushes it. Oscar Isaac, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Probably the most underrated performance of 2023 in my opinion. Oscar Isaac steals every scene as Miguel O'Hara. Every line is delivered with such honesty and intensity that he single-handedly drives the stakes and tension of the entire film. Robert Downey Jr., Tropic Thunder.
I know who I am. I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
Truly a role that only Robert Downey Jr. would be brave enough to attempt, and a role that only Robert Downey Jr. would be talented enough to do right. In an already funny movie, Robert Downey Jr. provides endless wit and unbridled ridiculousness. And the award goes to Rachel Weisz, The Favorite. Now on to the roles that don't have to worry about limited screen time. Best Actor. And the nominees are Isabelle Adjani, Possession. WTF is the best way to describe Adjani's performance in Possession. She manages to make me feel more terrified in a simple look than most horror movies can in their entire runtime. And the hallway sequence is one of the most demanding challenges I've ever seen an actor undertake. John Hurt, The Elephant Man. While hidden for a large amount of the film, the Elephant Man is a complex and deeply tragic character. John Hurt manages to find the humanity in a person who is regarded as anything but human. Bruno Ganz, Downfall. In the list of hardest historical figures to play, Hitler is certainly near the top, but Ganz makes it look easy. In a movie filled with incredible historical accuracy, Gantz's acting is the most striking. Ganz is able to portray Hitler as he really was at the end of his life, foaming at the mouth, high on drugs, and terrified. Anthony Hopkins, The Father. Anthony Hopkins isn't the kind of actor you cry over. His most notable roles are ones of commanding power and careful planning. But The Father sees Hopkins at his most vulnerable and is perhaps the best performance he's ever given. Michael Keaton, Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. Keaton was perfect for Birdman. There was no other pairing of actors in a role that is as weirdly brilliant. This makes Keaton pull a rare trick with the audience. There's always praise for an actor disappearing into their role, but Keaton does the reverse. The film disappears into him and has an almost biographical feel, all through Keaton's performance. And the winner is Anthony Hopkins, The Father. The next category is another that most award shows push to the wayside despite its fundamental importance. Best Editing. Without editing, you don't have a movie unless you choose to shoot your movie in one shot. And the nominees are The Ascent, Varina Belova. The Ascent is a war film unlike any other, so it requires editing unlike any other. Belova stitches a story of brutal realism and strange beauty together with pinpoint precision. Fanny and Alexander, Sylvia Ingmarsson. Editing anything over 3 hours is a monumental task, but Fanny and Alexander is over 5 hours, which makes the never-faltering prowess of Ingmarsson even more impressive. Oppenheimer, Jennifer Lame. While Oppenheimer is shorter than Fanny and Alexander, its editing is much more bombastic. The same as the sound design, the editing makes this film tick, merging multiple timelines and differing perspectives into a final, terrible impact. Hiroshima Mon Amour, Jasmine Chesnay, Henry Copri, and Annie Sarat. The artful combination of history, both global and personal, is at the heart of Hiroshima Mon Amour. The movie never slows down, but never rushes. It walks at a slow pace and arrives at its destination at the perfect time. All That Jazz, Alan Hem. Once again, visual jazz is the best way to describe the editing in this film. Full of life, energy, passion, All That Jazz's editing jumps off the screen and dances in front of you, mixing dreams and showbiz antics. All That Jazz brought the best of the French New Wave to American screens everywhere. And the winner is All That Jazz. The next category is cinematography. And the nominees are Baraka, Ron Frick, a visual tone poem from all over the world, shot in 152 locations in 24 countries. The cinematography of Baraka transcends any boundaries and speaks directly with the human experience. 8.5, Yanni di Vezova. While not as cool and stylish as Fellini's other films, 8.5's visuals are at the core of Italian cinema. The look of Vezano's magnum opus defines black and white European cinematography. Fanny and Alexander, Sven Neitzvitz. So much love and comfort is captured in the simple shots of Fanny and Alexander. The same care given to the first shot as the last. Featuring some of the best images ever put to screen, Sven Neitzvitz is a master of his craft, working at the height of his powers. Hero, Christopher Doyle. Maybe the most beautiful film to ever come out of China is Hero. This is in large part due to the production design, but the cinematography tells the complex story of Hero with ease and color. Workmeister harmonies. A lot of finding beauty in a Bela Tarr film is hard, but one of the easiest places to look is the cinematography. Some of the boldest and grimiest black and white films ever made come from him. And Workmeister Harmonies, despite its darkness, is still visually stunning. And the award goes to Baraka. The next category is Best Score, and the nominees are Hero, Tan Dun. Slow and elegant, then sharp and quick, the score of Hero is rich with the setting and time period of the film. Dozens of different instruments come together to show the massive scale of Hero's story, and Dan Tun standing above it as the general of this musical army. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Daniel Pemberton. The score to the first Spider-Verse film was already amazing, but just like in all other aspects, the sequel tops it. Daniel Pemberton adds even more style and energy into this second film and provides the sound and style of the entire story. Oppenheimer, Hoyt van Hoytema. Oppenheimer has a great score. You've all heard it before. It's amazing. Moving on. Koyaanisqatsi, Philip Glass. Deep and rumbling in the beginning, and then fast and wild, the score from Koyaanisqatsi comprises the slime from which life was born and the modern world we find ourselves in. Cinema Paradiso, Ennio Morricone and Andrea Morricone. The last name Morricone is synonymous with stirring strings and the gritty music of the Wild West. But in Cinema Paradiso, Ennio Morricone moves into pure classical magic. In a film all about the magic of cinema, Morricone reminds us that the music has always been there. And the winner is Cinema Paradiso. The next award is for everything a story has. Characters, plot, dialogue, actions. It's the screenplay. And the nominees are Before Sunrise, Richard Linklater and Kim Krisen. Before Sunrise is the best romance film ever made. Full stop. And so much of it rides on the script. Before Sunrise is 50% talk and 50% walk, featuring very realistic conversations and the most genuine falling in love ever captured. The script of Before Sunrise is one we all wish we could write. Anomalisa, Charlie Kaufman. The uncomfortable nature of life is one of Kaufman's most common themes, and it is never better than in Anomalisa. While so much of the film revolves around its animation, the script on its own is so funnily dry and realistic that it borders on bad writing, but never ever crosses that line. Past Lives, Celine Song. Past Lives asks a what if that most of us think about. It examines the relationships we have and the relationships we choose to let go. It is realistic, but deeply philosophical and genuine. I'm Thinking of Ending Things, Charlie Kaufman. Another Kaufman script. Though this time based on a book by Ian Rind. I'm thinking of Ending Things is dry and dark like most Kaufman stories, but it also contains a level of weirdness that is above his other work. While there is an explanation behind I'm thinking of Ending Things, it is also up for individual interpretation. Network, Paddy Chesky. Network is the closest thing we've gotten to modern Shakespeare. Witty and fast and brutal, a strange concept that never strains believability, Chesky's script goes for the throat in one of the most gripping satires ever written. And the award goes to Network. The second to last award is for Best Director. And the nominees are Federico Fellini, 8.5. The masterpiece of the greatest Italian director of all time, 8.5 is one of the most puzzling, entertaining, and joyful films. With some truly inventive visuals and ideas, 8.5 is admired for a reason. Fellini is working with a full deck of cards, and he plays every single one of them. David Lynch, The Elephant Man. David Lynch is a director known for being extremely strange, but The Elephant Man is one of his most straightforward films. While still full of Lynch's trademark oddities, The Elephant Man is Lynch at his most refined and compassionate. Ingmar Bergman, Fanny and Alexander. The great Ingmar Bergman swan song, Fanny and Alexander, is 5.5 hours of pure cinema. A tale of family, love, struggle, pain, and imagination. Everything in Bergman's career was building to this film, and what a magnificent structure it is. Zhang Yimou, Hero. Hero was the most expensive Chinese film when it was released, and it shows. Here is everything you want out of a Chinese epic and more. Zhang Yimou does what he does best, and makes every scene action-packed and visually stunning. Alain Resnais, Hiroshima, Mon Amour. Simple but as deep as the ocean. Resnais made a truly original and impactful film that has only gotten better since it was released in 1959. His debut feature proves why he is one of the most important artists of the French New Wave. And the winner is Ingmar Bergman, Fanny and Alexander. And now it's time for Best Picture. If you've made it this far, what are you doing? Seriously, I'm amazed you even bothered. And the nominees are Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. A complete level up from the already game-changing Into the Spider-Verse, this movie doesn't slow down. It maintains an incredibly fast pace and never fails to get my blood pumping. 8.5. Federico Fellini is a giant in film history, and 8.5 is perhaps his most well-regarded and influential movie. Full of surrealism and talent, 8.5 is an amazing film by an amazing director that only gets better on rewatch. Baraka. Baraka is a mesmerizing cinematic masterpiece that transcends traditional narrative storytelling, immersing viewers in a visually stunning and emotionally evocative exploration of humanity, nature, and the interconnectedness of all existence. This nonverbal, meditative documentary uses breathtaking cinematography and a hauntingly beautiful score to traverse diverse landscapes, cultures, and rituals from around the globe. Fanny and Alexander. Fanny and Alexander, directed by the legendary Ingmar Bergman, stands as a magnum opus in the realm of cinema, weaving a rich tapestry of familial drama, magical realism, and existential contemplation. Bergman's masterful directing, the best he's ever done, coupled with exquisite cinematography and stellar performances, creates an immersive and emotionally resonant film. Before Sunrise. Before Sunrise is the perfect mix of realism and fantasy when it comes to a fictional romance. The situation that the two leads are placed in might be exceedingly rare, but their interactions are simple and genuine. Before Sunrise stands the test of time and proves that human connection is universal. And the winner is Fanny and Alexander. One of the best films I've ever seen. And in a year where I watched so many good movies, it stood out just a bit more than the rest. Thanks so much for watching for some reason. This was honestly just for me, so I'm kind of expecting a negative view count somehow.